Good morning, everyone. It is Marissa Friedman, and I am, first of all, so absolutely excited about what we have going on over at the Center for Respectful Leadership. So, if you are not familiar with the Center for Respectful Leadership, this organization was founded by Greg Ward. He has a background in more than 25 years in leadership and development, and he's been in all areas of this, from training organizations like the NYPD to large-scale corporate organizations to doing coaching with, quite frankly, some of the highest levels of government in other countries. What Greg has put together is a series of learning and labs and just a community of people and leaders that are driven by one core value, which is respect. So a couple of the things to note: we often talk about respect as this feeling, and I have a sense that I think most of you do as well, that it can be really hard to quantify implementing things around feelings in your organizations. But I'm here to tell you today that respect is more than just a feeling. It is the core of anyone's business. And what we find is, if you do research on organizations that are performing at the highest levels, there's a couple things that you can find out about their company culture. Number one, that culture is one where people are really ingrained in what is going on in the organizations. They're bought into it, they love it, and because of that culture and that fit, everyone feels empowered to have honest and real discussions with one another. And that leads to stickiness in the organization, meaning that people stay for a long period of time. Or you have a very high-performing organization making a lot of money, and everyone is there kind of selling their souls, and the only time there's an issue is when something disrupts that ecosystem of money. So potentially you could have two executives that don't get along. You could have a boss that is a bully, or you have one particular department where there's turnover. And I think most of us have been in these situations where you are in an organization that has a lot of turnover in one area, and everyone knows what the elephant in the room is. And maybe that leader is just a little bit more analytical in nature. And so they alienate people based on the way that they deliver information. Really successful organizations really look to seek and identify, where are our weak links? How do we train up leaders to be able to have honest and real conversations in a direct way? So what's exciting for me is that when we look at the respectful leader and we look at some of the materials that Greg has put out, respectful leader is really a business fable. And it goes through all of these elements of how to practice respect and how to become respect worthy. And more importantly, how do you value this respect? So the center was really founded on three pinnacles. Number one, understanding respect, what it means to you, your organization, your leaders, and your teams. Two, how do you value respect? Where is that on the continuum? Is that even part of anyone's goals? My sense is, for most of you, it's not. And then how are we practicing that? Now, when we look at quantifying this, what we've found is that organizations come to us most often because they're in a position where they have to do something, right? So there's been a corporate-wide issue, and so they're forced to implement a plan. And I'm trying to get people to identify and understand that respect should be part of your brand architecture. It should be part of your foundation. And by the way, respect has nothing to do with being nice. Contrary to popular belief, opinion, and narrative, respect has absolutely nothing to do with being nice. And I want you to hear what I just said. You can have influence without intimidation. You can be a strong leader without being aggressive in nature and tone, or you can actually honor the part of you that is pragmatic and say, these are the facts, here's a framework in which how I deliver respect to my coworkers and colleagues. So I think when we looked at all of this information and we said, how can we make this information accessible? How can we make respect not just this nice to have, but I understand how it funnels through each department of your company? And I don't care if you have five people, 500, 5,000, 50,000, 500,000. What we're looking at is, what are these elements? How do we practice them? And would it surprise you to know that when we go to implement these programs, our participants are often shocked not only about how simple it is to have these dialogues, but how to create replicable frameworks that can be used over and over again within the leadership of the team. So my task to Greg over the past year has been, how do we take programming that would be considered what I look at as kind of being like inaccessible? And here's what I mean by that. most small business owners today, if you are, a micropreneur with 5 or a few business, people in your business, or maybe you have 15 people in your organization, it's a pill to swallow, and you might not have $75,000 to implement a culture change initiative. So what we did is we developed a series of programs that were really designed to help people one-on-one or in a smaller team setting be successful. And also, if you're in a large organization and you're trying to figure out how can we deliver content on a regular basis that is scalable, right? We created some incredible programming. And what we're looking for is beta testers to come in and try, some of this programming, because we feel that we've taken the most important elements of this exceptionally high value, high dollar training and figured out, hey, these are the kind of the daily things that people need to do. These are the weekly things they need to do. Here's a simple framework for communicating through a tough conversation. Here's a framework for an apology. Here's a framework for all of these. So it becomes very real. So we're looking for beta testers. And my sense is that there's many of you out there who have had issues with disrespect in your workplace, who have had someone say something snippy, or maybe someone in the office that just, they just rub people the wrong way. And instead of labeling that person as difficult, what we need to look at is how is everyone showing up? And how do we create a framework for respect? So even if personality-wise we don't like one another, we can respect what each other brings to the table. And let me show you how this kind of manifested for me, at least. I worked in larger organizations for a significant period of time. I have been disrespected in so many ways, you guys wouldn't believe it. Most recently, I had an experience where someone criticized, I believe, nothing about my work performance, but they criticized my physical appearance because of a pair of earrings that I was wearing. And I think in the moment, it's hard to sit there as someone that's working and receive feedback when it's delivered to you maliciously. But if someone could remove the judgment from the dialogue, I could be open, right? Anyone can be open to listening if it's presented in a clear way and a respectful way. And I think the core for me is recognizing that with Greg, respect has nothing to do with being nice. It is about having influence in your organization without intimidation, and we provide those steps for you. So right here is my email address. It's marissa@respectfulleadership.org. If you are interested in beta testing our programming, shoot me an email, tell me a little bit more about you. The modules that we've created are about 90 minutes per module. To give you an estimate on the dollar value per module, we're looking at a price point of around $5,500. So what I want to do is to say, hey, before we go out to the world and give this to our existing clients, and before we do all of this kind of widespread world domination, I want to invite people in that are like, you know what? Respect matters to me. I recognize that if my people get along better, we're going to perform better. We're going to generate more sales revenue. We're going to have more streamlined processes. We're going to have better efficiencies in our company. And we're going to spend less time in HR dealing with issues that no one wants to deal with. And let me break this down for you. A colleague of mine once told me that he spent a significant portion of time dealing with a dress code violation. Now, this is what was really interesting. Apparently, someone was really tied to a corporate policy. And by the way, this happens all the time. I worked in an organization at one point that banned leggings and yoga pants. Now, mind you, this is an organization where no one was ever client-facing. No one ever saw a client. It was a very casual workplace, but it was determined that yoga pants were not professional. Meanwhile, by the way, this was specifically for the women. Meanwhile, all of the men in the organization were allowed to wear athletic shorts and jogging pants. And so we just kind of looked at it and said, okay, so let me get this clear. The men in the organization are allowed to wear athleisure wear, but the women in the organization are not allowed to wear athleisure wear because it's not professional. And again, there's a framework and a communication progress or a process that can happen. But think about the amount of time, effort, and energy that went into something as simple as clothing, right? So when we talk about this training and what we're providing, we really want someone that says, you know what, I feel disrespected, or our organization has some disrespect issues, or you know what, we are intentionally choosing respect. We are #embracing respect because we know that it will allow us to grow as an organization, to transform the way our people are thinking, and to recognize each person for what they're bringing to the table and respect them for their knowledge, experience, and wisdom. And that's where I think, my friends, that every one of us needs to go. I have a ton of colleagues that I might not get along with on a personal level, but I have immense professional respect for them because we do communicate respectfully, and we have chosen to figure out how to see the best in what each other brings to the table. And that's really important. Tell me about this utopia where everyone gets along 24 hours a day and loves everyone that they work with and wants to be friends with everyone they work with. That doesn't exist. And what you find is in those environments where everyone gets along all the time and there's no problems ever, when someone comes to the table with a different perspective or a different idea that doesn't go along with the group, they're labeled, right? We label those people. They're negative, right? They have bad energy. Or maybe they're saying, hey, have we evaluated this from a different perspective? Have we assessed this as a risk in our organization? And that, to me, is why the Center for Respectful Leadership exists. We exist to bring together a path and a way for people to have conversations that are grounded in respectful leadership. So if you are interested in coming and beta testing our programming, we would love to have you. Please email maressa@respectfulleadership.org. That is maressa@respectfulleadership.org. And subject line will be beta tester. And we'll set up a quick call and see if that's something you would like to do. There is no cost to being a beta tester. I want to repeat that. There is no cost to being a beta tester. So what we would love is to have you come in, take our programming, do a couple of really, the evaluation process is actually built into the programming. So you're not going to have to watch a bunch of programming and then do like a 100-page survey afterwards. We're going to make this really easy for you. But we believe, right, that respect really changes the makeup of an organization. It allows an organization to blossom and grow. It allows you to truly respect others for their opinions, even if they don't agree with yours. And in case you weren't aware, we have some very interesting things happening coming up here in the next couple of months as politics becomes the forefront of discussion. And one of the great things is if you look that information up, Greg did a beautiful, beautiful piece a few years ago for LinkedIn Learning during the last election, where he broke down how our candidates were not being respectful, how they weren't doing good apologies, how they X, Y, and Z. And that is going to be really relevant, because we're watching our friends, partners, and colleagues, fighting on LinkedIn and fighting on Facebook and really kind of going after each other instead of starting with a baseline of respect. And I think you can all agree with me that if we can talk to each other in a respectful way, many of the things that are making headlines today will cease to exist because we can have an informed and educated conversation. And we can truly adopt the mentality of influence without intimidation. So with that, I thank you all for your time this morning, giving me a couple of minutes. And if you are interested in being a beta tester, please reach out to Maressa, that's Maressa, @respectfulleadership.org. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.